Since the 1940s, the phenomenon of unidentified flying objects, also known as flying saucers, has become increasingly popular. More and more reports of such objects have been made mainly in the United States, making it a highly valued field of activity for Hollywood. Among the many posters and movies that were dictated by the fashion of UFOs and made room for the scenarios of life on the Moon, but also on Mars, of extraterrestrial civilizations and why not interact with them. In short, UFOs are so well known that for modern society they already seem to be a part of mythology, as in the United States, for example. In a simple search we can find countless interviews with people who have come in contact with such objects telling strange stories. It is thus very easy to understand why when a stranger light appears in the sky the media is the first to create stories in such a way that the enthusiasts are very interested. Among the many such cases we will analyze the alleged accident of a UFO on Mars, but also the probability of life in this place. Alien-Mars relationship. For a significant period of time, Mars was the most promising planet in terms of the possible presence of extraterrestrial life forms except Earth. Obviously it has rocky canyon landscapes worthy of a national park and a general look that resembles Arizona without vegetation and buildings. So the amateur explorers tried their best to observe special elements in the photographs that the rovers and the Tauri orbit provided. This hunt for life forms has brought to the fore many false stories that have tried to prove that there is concrete evidence that life forms are much more complex than we are. Probably the biggest mistake they made was to look for such complex forms of life. Given the complexity of outer space and why not each planet, the chances of life forms developing similarly to the way we did it are very small. This is how scientists understood this, and for example, when it comes to Mars, they are trying to look for life forms that resemble microbes on Earth. And it seems that this search could yield unexpected results. Not long ago, NASA-owned Curiosity rover noticed a mixture of carbon isotopes in the rocks of Gale Crater, which if it were on Earth would be a sign of life. In addition, the rover witnessed a phenomenon that may be closely related to life. It has seen seasonal explosions of methane, a gas that is mostly biologically produced on Earth at about 3,700 kilometers away in crater J0. NASA's Virgin rover has discovered purple layers on the rocks at the bottom of the crater that are widespread, and it resembles microbial lakes on Earth. Alien spacecraft crashed. In one of the images that NASA published, fans of the flying ships were sure to discover something. It is a photograph that illustrates a structure about 190 meters wide that according to the enthusiasts would not be rock formation, but rather an alien spaceship. However, scientists have analyzed this situation and have a completely different opinion which is based on careful research. According to them, it is a natural formation of the planet Mars known as the Medusa Fossae Formation. Indeed, according to them, it is a strange-looking geological deposit that has several distinct characteristics. For example, it is distinguished by the fact that the signals directed at it are very poorly reflected. This quality has been interpreted by extraterrestrial theory enthusiasts as further proof that it would try as much as possible not to expose itself to any interaction with the outside environment. Analyzing the dimensions of the supposed spaceship, we can see that the proportions are quite different, being much larger. It looks like a saucer that made a bad landing and landed on Martian soil. Life forms were found on Mars in the 1970s. With this theory, a mission came to light. In the 1970s, which seems to have had a lot to show for itself in the spectacular Viking mission conducted by NASA on Mars in 1976, was the label Release Life Detection Division, abbreviated to Bel Air. Thus, on July 30, 1976, he returned the initial results from Mars. The analysis showed that a total of 4 tests were positive. What did this mean? Well, The data suggested that there is microbial respiration on the red planet. The curves on Mars were similar to those by L tests of soils on Earth. However, the Watkins molecular analysis experiment failed to analyze and possibly detect the organic matter that is in principle the essence of life from the results obtained. NASA has concluded that label release has found a substance that mimics life but not life itself. The Viking mission wanted to detect and monitor the developing metabolism, which would have been a very simple indicator and resistant to the failure of living microorganisms. Thus, although the necessary tests were performed with both terrestrial soils and microbial cultures in laboratory conditions, but also in somewhat more unfavorable conditions such as extreme natural environments, it was not possible to provide a false positive or false negative answer. This strongly supports the reliability of Mars data even if their interpretation is debated. Unfortunately, so far it has not been possible to design an instrument that can tell us with certainty whether life forms are present on Mars and detect them. Instead, the agency launched a series of missions to Mars to determine if there was ever a suitable habitat for life and whether to continue investigations to bring samples to Earth for biological examination. Thus, since the 70s, the presence of life forms on Mars has been deeply discussed. In some studies, researchers even said that it would be a miracle for Mars to be barren. NASA scientist Chris McKay said, "When I see that Mars and Earth have changed saliva for billions of years, this can be translated into the exchange of large comets and meteorites that we know, and that could have made an essential exchange of matter between Earth and Mars. Depending on the nature of each space component, meteorites or comets could have contained certain biological forms that could have infected the planet they arrived on." A rather strong argument in support of this exchange is supported by the successful study of the survival of microbial species from Earth to Mars. There are even reports of the survival of microorganisms exposed in free space outside the International Space Station. Conclusion: when it comes to space, it is impossible that the presence of extraterrestrial life forms is not included in the equation. Of course, this happens even deeper. When we talk about Mars, enthusiasts of alien life forms are so passionate that any news about new discoveries automatically makes them think about their purpose and therefore the discovery of aliens. As we have seen, things are much more complex. Among many other fake news that have been used over time to gain as many UFO interactions as possible, the crashed UFO on Mars is most likely a fabrication that has deceived enthusiasts. With more and more advanced modern technologies, we can see that we are getting closer and closer to achieving the coveted goal: discovering the first microforms of life. However, referring to the presence of bacteria, for example, this discovery will not give us exactly what we wanted and what we saw in Hollywood movies.